Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your Jupiter in Capricorn or Jupiter in the 10th house. My name is Brandon. I do astrology videos here on YouTube, and this is part of a much larger series where I go over specifically what it means to have each planet in each sign and house, all the way from Aries to Sagittarius at this point, as well as the 1st to the 9th house. So I have a playlist down below where I go through all of those planetary bodies, and they're all between Sun and Saturn. So any planetary body that you may have prior to Sagittarius, prior to Capricorn and the 10th house, I have that in that playlist down below. And this is one of the many videos on the Capricorn and 10th house kind of series here, and I am really excited about this one. Jupiter is one of the more interesting ones to talk about relative to being in the sign of Capricorn, for the reasons of which it is in the dignity spectrum, which I'll get to that in a moment. But all of that aside, I am really excited to be doing this. I love being able to do this. This is so fun to me. If you are brand new to astrology, you don't even know if you have your Jupiter in Capricorn, then I would recommend you check out down below. There is a link for you to get your chart generated so you can see if you have your Jupiter in Capricorn, or if you don't, or if you have your Jupiter in the 10th house. All those sorts of things are going to be kind of able to be given to you in that regard. And then, of course, if you want any sort of reading from me or any sort of information from me, feel free to do that as well, with the links to my socials down there. So that's everything there. I'm going to be talking about this in multiple different kind of segments. So I have the timestamps down below, so you're welcome to check those out. First and foremost, I'm going to talk about specifically Jupiter in astrology, what that typically means, and then from there, Jupiter in Capricorn, and then Jupiter in the 10th house. So all that aside, there is so much to be talking about with astrology. Astrology is so nuanced, and this is what I'm trying to kind of get across with the complexity of this entire series. And so I really urge you to check out that playlist and then kind of bounce around my channel and bounce around those sorts of things to see and kind of put together the puzzle that is your entire chart. So really appreciate you for being here. I'm really excited to talk about this particular topic here. And yeah, without further ado, let's go into talk about what Jupiter means in astrology. Okay, so let's talk about Jupiter in astrology. So Jupiter is a pretty large planetary body. It is the largest planetary body that we actually have within our solar system, and it has a lot to do with the idea of expansion, of optimism, of meaning and faith and purpose and laws and everything that we derive meaning from, that we utilize as our kind of moral, ethical compass, will be seen in the realm related to Jupiter. It also has to do with like our worldview, our idea about different cultures, our relationship with different cultures, as well as the traditions that we kind of uphold to some sort of degree. And that's true for both Jupiter and Saturn. So it's interesting that this is Jupiter in a Saturn ruled signs kind of domain. So this will be an interesting conversation when we get to that in a moment. But Jupiter has a lot of expansive kind of qualities to it. And then in the inverse of that, Saturn is very constrictive, and Saturn is very restricting and kind of really putting things in boxes, and Jupiter just wants to expand, right? So you can already kind of see how having Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn, which is a Saturnian sign, is going to be a little bit difficult, but we'll get to that in a moment there. So Jupiter really, it does work on a cycle of 12, meaning that approximately every 12 years or so, Jupiter will return to where it was when you were born. So if you are around the age that is divisible by 12, so 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, those are going to be ages that are considered a Jupiter return, which are very beneficial to you. And it's important to note that if you are a Sagittarius or a Pisces rising, Jupiter is going to be really prominent for you. Or if you have a Sagittarius or Pisces sun, or like really prominent energies within those signs, they're going to really look to your Jupiter placement for a better idea of what specifically to believe in, how to have faith, how to have meaning. And that is what Jupiter really wants to impress upon us, is what we believe, why we believe it, how we have utilized our faith to go and pursue our dreams, pursue our purpose, like how we find meaning and derive meaning within our life is very Jupiter based. And it does also have things to do with the law, as well as foreign cultures, foreign lands, trade, philosophy, higher education, people that are kind of like, religious in nature, or people that are very faith forward, if you will. They're kind of very much a personality that is very faithful, philosophical as well. You'll see that really prominent with Jupiter at the top of the chart as well. Is a lot of faith, kind of forward careers. And it's a lot about following their faith, trusting in some sort of higher power or some sort of divine intervention or divine guidance. That's kind of what Jupiter really strives to do. And Jupiter naturally rules Sagittarius and Pisces, as you can kind of picked up on as I was talking earlier. And because of that, the signs opposite Sagittarius and Pisces, Gemini and Virgo, are signs that Jupiter does not do as well in. And then Jupiter is considered to be exalted in the sign of Cancer, and therefore is considered to be fallen in the sign opposite that, which is Capricorn. Okay, and we'll be talking about the implications of that once we get to the Jupiter Capricorn portion in a moment. But I do bring all that up because it is important to know like where it lands in that spectrum. The thing about dignity and that kind of dignity spectrum that I'm speaking about, it is really crucial to understand that it works on a range, and the planetary bodies are still going to do what they're meant to do, but it's going to be something that they're going to have to do it through either means that they're comfortable in or means that they're uncomfortable in, right? And it's something that all of these planets, every single planet has a domicile, has a debilitation, has a fallen or exaltation placement. All of them do. And because of that, there's a lot of compartmentalization that astrologers talk about with this. And I don't want to like stress it too hard. I just want to let you know that there is something of a way that astrologers will look at the Jupiter Capricorn placement in this particular example and be very like negative, right? And I think there's a lot of value to be given to placements that are not necessarily strong by dignity. And I want you to also kind of reframe it. And that's what the purpose of this video is in a lot of ways. And I really hope to get that across, that it's not just for just Jupiter in this specific example, but every single placement that is anywhere on those spectrums that I kind of mentioned as well. It's really important to kind of break your kind of thought patterning in regards to that, or the conditioning rather, in that way. Then finally, Jupiter also rules mentors, mentees, any sort of coach, any sort of teacher, any sort of like someone that you are learning something from. Foreign languages is very Jupiter as well. Foreign international things, mental health is also Jupiter related, but that's more Pisces realm than anything. And just learning about stuff and finding the meaning and deriving the meaning from things. That's what Jupiter is really all about. So one more thing is that Jupiter does quite well if you are born during the day versus born during at night, where it will be kind of the inverse. It won't be as beneficial. And that's based off the concept of sect, which is a very old concept in astrology that they utilize to determine what planetary bodies kind of work more positively, dependent upon when you were born, whether it was day or night. So that's something that I think is just really also important to kind of bring in. But all that aside, let's go into the real meat and potatoes of this, and let's talk about what Jupiter means in Capricorn. Okay, so we have Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn. Now, Jupiter in Capricorn, I spoke about this in the previous portion, but just in case if you skipped ahead, Jupiter is considered to be fallen in the sign of Capricorn, meaning that it does not function at its highest level of comfort. And Jupiter is all about our meaning, our faith, our belief systems, what we utilize to guide us, right? Our guiding light, our guiding principles, right? As well as our idea of what is right and wrong, our morals, our ethics, our legal kind of relationships, our relationship with not just the law in and of itself, like the legal systems and the justice system, but also the laws that govern us like on a more spiritual, broader level, right? And I think the reasoning as to why Jupiter doesn't do well in either Virgo, Gemini, or Capricorn is because all of those signs, the Virgo and Gemini ones, are both mercurial, meaning that they're trying to analyze, they're trying to understand, they're not really trying to follow it necessarily. They're trying to explain it. They're trying to explain away their belief to some degree, or really just talk through their belief, right? As opposed to just living it and experiencing it and embodying it, right? Which is very much, the Sagittarius, Pisces kind of Cancer way about it. Now we get to Jupiter and Capricorn. This is where we see Jupiter's belief and faith being more than likely outdated. And there's a lot of, what I tend to see with Jupiter Capricorn is there's a lot of indoctrinated kind of belief systems, things that are pushed upon you at a young age, that you believe a certain way or our culture does things a certain way, and this is why we are the way we are. We will consistently stay this way, and these are the beliefs that you follow. These are the traditions you follow, right? And so I find with Jupiter Capricorn, there's going to be more of a theme around really strong spiritual beliefs that during the time of the Saturn return will need to be drastically revisited. And the Saturn return, I'm going to do a video down below for you where we talk about all the different Saturn cycles. I did it with another astrologer, and it was phenomenal. It was amazing. And we talk about the different ways that Saturn works throughout its cycle, whether it's, in the first quarter square, the, opposition, the second quarter square, the return, or so on and so forth, and how Saturn, as you age, really develops you in a lot of different ways. And because you have a Jupiter in Capricorn, in this specific example, the Saturn return is really, really crucial. And any sort of Saturnian sort of transit is going to be really, really powerful because it's going to bring you back to that Jupiter in Capricorn. And in that same vein, it's important to look at your Saturn placement in your chart to see what types of beliefs that are being fed to you, right? For example, if you have Jupiter, a lot of people that have Jupiter in Capricorn have Saturn in Aries. That's the most that's the most recent one. There is some that there's like a weird cusp people that I think have it in Pisces as well. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I think there's like a weird cusp thing there. But for the most part, most of them that I find are Jupiter and Capricorn have it in Aries. And the thing is with that, when you have Jupiter and Capricorn, Saturn and Aries, there's even like more of a natural kind of, particularly the father figure or just authorities in general misguided you or taught you wrong or told you this is what you should believe, why you should believe it. There's kind of a leadership of some authority outside of you. And that's mainly because Jupiter's in Capricorn, it's reporting to that Saturn in Aries. And the Saturn in Aries typically indicates poor leadership, poor management, people that are not able to really assist you or that are really pushing like their own agenda. So I think that's part of what we'll see with Jupiter in Capricorn for that particular example. That's the first one that comes out of the mind. That's the most clients I have are that age, just because of where they're at and my age bracket as well. So it is important to know that the Jupiter sign is going to report to that Saturn sign. So it is important to look at what Saturn's doing, where it's at, what kind of conversations it's having, and to see also what else is happening in Capricorn. If your Jupiter is, in a square to Mars, or if it's, connection with Mercury, there's going to be a lot of different conversations of how this Jupiter can play out. So it's not just Jupiter in Capricorn as the one, it's not the one size fits all type of thing, right? And I think that's an interesting phrase, because that also seems very Jupiter Capricorn as well, because of the fact that when we think about the one size fits all, it's almost this belief where everything will work, right? It's almost like if you just trust the system, right? Trust the system, trust what your managers say, trust what your parents say, trust what, society says is right and what the legal system says is right. But that's outdated, right? The laws that we had 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago are outdated, and they've grown and they've changed, right? And I think Jupiter in Capricorn has this kind of quality of maintaining the status quo, maintaining the indoctrinated beliefs. So the thing about this one, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Because there needs to be, and this is where Capricorn really benefits a lot of people, there needs to be some awareness of the past and awareness of the systems that came before that we built upon to then be able to build further from that, right? We need to be able to look back to the past to see how we don't repeat it, right? And that's something I think that's really interesting about history. History doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes, right? And I find that very true for specifically for Jupiter in Capricorn, and just for astrology in general. Astrology just kind of speaks to the idea of things rhyming and the repetition of things. But when it comes to history, it's really important to honor the past, honor your ancestors, honor your elders, right? And that's the thing with Jupiter Capricorn. A lot of it is their elders will give them their beliefs, and they'll kind of be really impressed upon them. But that worked for, the older generations, not for you, right? And you'll learn that as you age, right? You'll develop your own belief systems, your own kind of internal compass. And the thing is, too, when we talk about Capricorn, a lot of things are externalized when it comes to Capricorn versus internalized when it comes to Cancer, which is why Jupiter in Cancer does so well, because it is internalizing its beliefs. It's allowing its inner sort of center to guide and kind of direct it how to do things, right? Versus if we think about Jupiter in Capricorn, it's literally looking towards the outside, looking towards the authority, whomever that may be, to help guide you, help kind of put things together for you, and help you realize, what your beliefs are, what your meanings are, why you're here, what you're here to do. And that can be really hard to follow because it's not necessarily going to always garner the results you want. It's always going to help you because you're following someone else's truth, someone else's meaning, someone else's purpose. And another thing I really think is really interesting about Jupiter and Capricorn is I don't know why I'm getting all these like phrases today, but one of the things that comes to mind is this idea of if you don't work hard for your own dreams, you're going to be working hard for someone else's dreams. And that's like a very, Jupiter Capricorn-esque thing where if you don't allow your own purpose, your own meaning to develop and to come into connection with it and find that meaning, find that purpose through whatever means you need to relative to your chart, relative to your entire life, you're going to inevitably fall into helping someone else achieve their dreams. And that's something that I think Jupiter and Capricorn they do enjoy that, but especially as they age, they don't want to forever, right? It's not someone that I think is necessarily going to benefit from just following blindly, okay? And so the thing about Jupiter Capricorn, though, and this is true for all Capricorn placements, as you age, it gets so much better. It gets so much better. It allows you to really sit with your faith, really sit with your sense of identity, your sense of belief and meaning and purpose, and really be able to see how that grew. And it grows very, very stably. I don't think stably is even a word, but in a very stable fashion, it grows in a way that stands the test of time, because that's what Capricorn wants. Now, it is harder when you see Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn because we're going to be looking towards, the society at large, or our bosses, or whatever top-down people. We're going to look above us to try and find those answers. And the above us we're looking towards is typically in the 3D and in regards to Capricorn. And Jupiter goes beyond that. Jupiter goes beyond the 3D. Jupiter goes into, the esoteric. It goes into source, God, whatever you prescribe it to be. And I think a lot of the time with the Jupiter Capricorn, and just Jupiter in general, it's a lot about learning how to push past those boundaries, push past what was taught to you and what you've learned, and really question and continue to push and to develop your sense of belief, your sense of meaning, your sense of purpose, because that will inevitably grow. It'll inevitably change. It'll inevitably evolve. And that's something that Jupiter Capricorn really understands as they get older, is their faith, their belief in that regard. They also can be extremely wealthy over time because Jupiter is a wealth giving planet. And in the sign of Capricorn, it does take a lot of time to give that, right, typically. But as you age, as you develop that sense of belief, that sense of meaning as to why you're doing what you're doing, and you figure that out, then you will then get more and more blessings, right? Jupiter wants you to have a sense of lawfulness and a sense of legality, but sometimes it has to put you through, really struggling and like falling and like going and really not understanding why you had to go through the justice system in that regard, or why you had to go through this illegal sort of, avenue to do that. And that's the thing too, Jupiter Capricorn can also create legal, I don't want to say just legal trouble, but legal hurdles that you need to overcome, or you need to consistently kind of work around in regards to like citizenship or different things. Because Jupiter, it's still going to give you a lot of optimism in that regard, and it's going to help you through that, but it is going to likely give some sort of legal justice related thing that forces you to make sure you're not being too risky, too out there, those sorts of things. So something I think is just really interesting when it comes to that specific placement, because the law is something that we kind of all have to abide by, whether I'm talking about the legal system in whatever, sort of country you live in, but then also the laws that govern us on a spiritual level, on a spiritual plane. And I think that's where we'll see typically with Jupiter and Capricorn, we'll see during the Saturn return, those really big questions being answered and asked as well by the individual, where they're beginning to question the authority, question the outside world, and then inversely also question themselves and begin to really dig into that part of themselves to see more of, why do I believe what I believe? Why is it there? Why is it not working anymore, right? We need to recognize that things don't work anymore to progress. And there's a certain level of gifts that Jupiter has in Capricorn where it is capable of really deeply changing the law and changing the way that things are, because it is so aware of the past and why it did not work. And it can be very, very innovative because it is able to look at all of the things that didn't work prior and understand that those were outdated and those were not needed anymore, and those need to then be evaluated and recognized as part of the problem, and then utilizing the past to help progress. That's what I think is also interesting when we think about Jupiter and Saturn kind of connecting, is looking towards the past, looking towards that part of us that we might not want to look at, that part when we had that legal issue, or that part where there was, all these cases that were jumped in, or like that were kind of wrangled into the same sort of case law, and people were not treated fairly, right? People were not, treated equally in that regard. And that's something that I think Jupiter and Capricorn, because Jupiter rules law, you could also have a career in law as well. This is more prominent if you have Jupiter at the top of the chart and like the 10th house and things, but you could definitely have a career in law and working with legal systems as well, or working with structural kind of, even like business law could be a really big thing for you, or working with like HR departments, things of that nature, teaching people the right ways to do things that are aware of everyone's belief systems. There's also like a sense of cultural competency and kind of like an awareness of, and this is more like Jupiter Aquarius if anything, but like an awareness of everyone's kind of belief systems and being able to kind of fit and mold that all within one. So it can kind of be really interesting, but they definitely have like kind of a wariness to new beliefs, new meaning, new kind of worldviews that are brought to them. So that's something I think is really unique in that regard. So there is also, like I had said earlier, there is a Jupiter in Capricorn that's kind of mixed in with Saturn and Pisces as well. So that's something I think is interesting, because that's fun, because that then has like Jupiter, Saturn kind of helping one another because they're mutual reception. So that helps the whole situation for those people. Because it is important to be able to look to your Saturn sign in this specific example. And Saturn doesn't move that often. The one prior to that would be Jupiter in Capricorn with Saturn in Scorpio. So that's going to be a little interesting in and of itself as well. And then prior to that, it looks like it's Saturn in Gemini. Yeah, Saturn in Gemini, Saturn in Taurus. That one's going to kind of work. That one's at the 1972, 1973. So, point being is the Jupiter-Saturn story is all about being able to take the beliefs, take the meaning, change the law. And Saturn is like, okay, well, let's look at the past. Let's look at what works. Let's look at what doesn't work. And this is something that you'll find with the Jupiter-Saturn people, is it's a lot about them being able to hold faith, hold optimism, but also hold practicality at the same time. Make sure their beliefs are applied. And the thing is, a lot of the time, Jupiter and Capricorn, it's all about utilizing your faith to reach your career. And you'll see that as well with Jupiter in the 10th house. That's a little bit stronger in that regard. But Jupiter and Capricorn also has a very strong sense of faith that they eventually have to build and integrate into what they're doing to help them reach that kind of higher guidance, higher thing. They can also have a career in philosophy, religion, those sorts of things. These could be heads of departments of education as well. There's sense of also changing the education system. That's also more, that's something that I think is more relative to like the Jupiter Capricorn that's mixed with the Saturn and Scorpio generation. There's more of like that, versus like who you entrust your belief systems to come from. There's a lot of that there with the Saturn Aries generation. So there's a lot of different kind of ways that this can kind of play out. But once again, look to your Saturn placement to get a better idea of that. And then, of course, look to yourself, right? Jupiter Capricorn, there's so much about looking towards other people, looking to other people's guidance, looking to mentors, looking to people that are older than you, right? Just because they're older than you does not mean they have it all together. And I can promise you, there's so many times that people say online that everyone's just trying to figure it out. Everyone's just kind of bumping around, trying to figure out what works, and it sometimes works for them, but it doesn't work for other people, and it just kind of, they're figuring it out. No one really knows what we're doing. We're just all kind of trying to figure it out at the same time, right? So just know that that's part of the Jupiter Capricorn story as well, is trusting your own faith, your own kind of ability to move, and following that and letting that be your guiding light in that regard. So that's it for the Jupiter Capricorn. Once again, look to the entirety of your chart for a better idea of what else is going on. And then, of course, if you're interested in anything with me, feel free to check out down below with all my socials and things. And then also, of course, if you have any other placements prior to Capricorn or even after Capricorn, because I'll be working on Aquarius and Pisces here pretty soon, there's a playlist down below you're welcome to check out for a better idea of all the other planets that are in that specific playlist. So I appreciate you for being here, and I will see you guys in the next part. We talk about specifically what Jupiter means in the 10th house. Okay, so let's talk about Jupiter in the 10th house. So Jupiter in the 10th house is going to function a little bit differently than Jupiter in Capricorn because of the fact that Jupiter in the 10th house can be in a myriad of different signs. It can be in any sign, doesn't have to be in Capricorn. And more than likely, you're going to have Jupiter not in Capricorn in the 10th house because Jupiter really will only be in a sign once a year. So it is something that is really important to understand, that Jupiter is, it takes quite a while to go through a sign. So everyone born the same like age as you has the same Jupiter sign as you for the most part. And so it is something that I think is important to think about, because Jupiter will likely, if it's in the 10th house, it'll be in various different signs. So I want to let you know as well, I've talked about Jupiter in every single sign prior to this. So feel free to check out the playlist down below for all those videos for all that Jupiter's signs that you may have, to kind of check those things out to get a better idea of what Jupiter specifically wants in that specific sign that you may have, and then come back to this and then watch this portion in regards to the house placement. Now, Jupiter in various signs is going to function very differently, but in the 10th house overall, there's a career relative to faith, law. Like this is a really great, like being a lawyer, being in a courthouse, being in advocacy in regards to law, or in regards to mental health or hospitals, or foreign trade or foreign cultures or language or philosophy or religion or college. Like a lot of like collegiate mentors will have a Jupiter like angular, right? So if you have Jupiter at the top of the chart, there's a lot of faith, meaning, purpose that you yourself will be able to bring to your career, and by following that will help you, right? Jupiter at the top of the chart really does assist in being recognized, having yourself be seen, having a lot of opportunities publicly, right? Now, Jupiter at the top of the chart does also indicate like a longer, a longer journey relative to philosophy and religion. So typically Jupiter at the top of the chart, and this can go, it's weird because it can go either way, but I see it more leaning towards kind of a lot of impressions very early on to be very public, to be very seen, as well as the kind of philosophical, kind of religious kind of upbringing can be pretty prominent there, as well as Jupiter in the 4th house as well. But Jupiter in the top is almost like you're being asked to show up and show out. It's like you're being seen as a philosophical preacher, teacher, those sorts of things, right? So all that aside, there's also a sense of popularity as well. With Jupiter at the top of the chart, there's a sense of you're just seen. People just see you. People want to be around you. Your energy just brings optimism, brings positivity, and teach people something, right? And the more you lean into your Jupiter, the more you lean into your faith, if you have Jupiter in the 10th house, and the more you follow that, and the more you allow that to be your guiding light, the better off you will be the entirety of your life, honestly. So depending upon Jupiter's sign at the top of the chart, it's going to function very differently. Like I said, I have done every single sign prior to Jupiter in Capricorn, so please check those out if you have any of those, which you more than likely will at this point. And I'm going to try and be as brief as possible. I'm going to go a little bit into them here just because it is important to just bring up when we talk about Jupiter. So Jupiter in a fire sign, so either Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. When we have Jupiter in a fire sign, it actually does quite well because Jupiter wants to inspire, it wants to make things happen, it wants to really, really coach and teach and create this kind of inspiration in other people. Fire is a natural element that is inspiring, that wants to ignite and create change, and Jupiter wants to do that as well. So we have Jupiter in Sag, Jupiter in Leo, or Jupiter in Aries. They're all this kind of quality of creating some change in someone through your faith, through your belief, through your meaning. So these are a lot of teachers, like a lot of influential teachers can be a part of this, influential mentors, things of that nature, where they are able to, you hear these stories all the time about teachers that are so monumental in someone's journey, and they shift the entire trajectory of where a child goes because they're able to really connect to a specific teacher that really imparted some wisdom on them. And that's where Jupiter at the top of the chart in like a fire sign can really have that, especially if it's in Sagittarius at the top of the chart. It's almost like there's a mentor that comes in that really helps you really kind of follow that. It is likely going to be religious or cultural in that regard, but it is still something that is really, really helpful in the long run when Jupiter's at the top of the chart, because it's almost like a teacher will come in and be like, all right, here you go, let's go, right? The other thing I meant to say, I didn't bring this up in any of the other portions about Jupiter for some reason, but Jupiter also in other branches of astrology does represent the husband. So if you have Jupiter at the top of the chart, and it does represent your husband is likely someone who will be very public, as well as someone who you will probably work with or have a career with, or who will be like a public figure to some degree if you have Jupiter at the top of the chart. That's something that I think is really interesting in that regard. But I don't do a lot of things relative to predictive stuff like that. I can, and I have, but it's not really my forte nor what I really focus in on. But I felt like it's relative or important to bring up for those that have Jupiter in Capricorn in general, and as well as Jupiter in the 10th house. Now, moving on from Jupiter into fire, which is all this like this ignition, this ability to start things and make things happen. We have Jupiter in Earth, right? So we have Jupiter in Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, which are none of the signs that Jupiter really likes to be in, right? Jupiter does not like to be in Virgo or Capricorn, so it's kind of like constrained in its ability to believe in something. And Jupiter in Taurus has that same quality to it, but there is a sense of financial kind of support with Jupiter and Taurus at the top of the chart. This could be specifically careers in vocal performance, vocal teaching, or jewelry making. Something about going to school and learning about the higher purpose of your voice, as well as the higher purpose of like resources. A lot of resource management, financial management with Jupiter and Taurus. Jupiter and Virgo at the top of the chart. This one is going to be some interesting mentorship stuff for sure at the top of the chart, but there is also a quality of the work they do is very, very fulfilling for them. Like one of the most fulfilling things is with the Jupiter and Virgo, they find a lot of meaning in the work that they do, and that's where they really derive their meaning from, is what they do for work. So they could be a leader that is able to instill that into other people and really, really pass on that belief and that faith of loving the work that you do. So they could really love the work that they do in a lot of ways and love the service they're providing in that regard, which I really like, because I am a Jupiter Virgo, so that's part of it. And then Jupiter in Capricorn, obviously the top of the chart. Like I said, this isn't that common to have this one, but it is something that I think is important to think about, because if we have Jupiter at the top here, we're going to see that there's going to be a really large predisposition towards like the boss to tell you what to do and those sorts of belief systems. So yeah, Jupiter Capricorn on the top, there's a lot of like father indoctrinated issues there, or just like ancestral issues that are like not even like something that are even relevant anymore. Holding grudges. The thing I think about with Jupiter and Capricorn, if anyone's seen Holes, it's that movie where like they essentially like curse their entire generation. That's kind of Jupiter Capricorn. Not saying that's literally what it is, but it has that energy of like really like breaking those years and years and years and centuries and generations of outdated beliefs and changing that cycle in a lot of ways. Going back a second to Jupiter in Virgo here. If you do have Jupiter in Virgo, you are actually, it's more important here because Jupiter is your chart ruler as well, because you are a Sagittarius rising with Jupiter at the 10th house. So it is important to recognize that you yourself are kind of being brought up there. So there is a sense too with Jupiter and Virgo top of the chart. This is also knowing as well that it's the chart ruler. There can be an aspect of this that is you going into law and being in law school. As another Jupiter Virgo individual myself, I can tell you that law is actually really fun for me. It's really enjoyable to just learn about it and learn how to apply it and learn how to work with it. Not something I'm really like super interested in, but I think had I have gone a different path, I could see myself going into law, and I have had those thoughts as well, myself personally. And it is interesting because if it is your chart ruler as a Sagittarius rising, Jupiter and Virgo, it's you literally being brought publicly to analyze and critique and do those things. So this could be a really great critic, or really great like consultant, analyst, things like that. There's a lot of you being brought publicly to really speak your truth, speak how things work, understand them. There could be like mad engineer energy, like not mad like crazy, like mad like good, like really good energy around like high performing engineers. Because Jupiter and Virgo, I'd recommend you watch my video on that, but it's about putting like the engineer and the philosopher together. And I think that's really, really prominent for this one. I really like it. Now moving on from that, the Jupiter in Earth, we have a Jupiter in Air. So Jupiter in Air, we have Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. Now, Jupiter in these signs is more social, right? Like I said earlier with Jupiter and Gemini, it doesn't do as well here because it's trying to understand all these things, figure them all out, kind of have a better like plan, and really try to like gather all the information and stuff. So it is a public career that is very, a career that's very kind of messy and kind of has a bunch of different things that it's doing, and there's meaning in all the things that it's doing, but it's not able to really find the right truth for its own purpose. But this could be a really great one for journalism, as well as mass media production, mass kind of social media messaging. There's something about journalism that's really strong with this one, because Jupiter rules publishing. Gemini also rules like the information, the kind of gossip, the tabloids. So it could be a lot of like tabloid writers. There could be a lot of like paparazzi with this. There could be some really interesting like TMZ is very much that, like the kind of like news outlets that are very much getting all the sweet gossip. That's very Jupiter Gemini in that regard at the top of the chart. And then Jupiter in Libra, this is, interestingly enough, someone who has a lot of social connections. All of them in the air signs at the top of the chart have social connections that help them get further in life. Jupiter in Libra has a lot of support there as well, because Libra does really well at the top of the chart because Saturn rules that, and the 10th house also kind of connects to that as well, meaning that Saturn's considered to be exalted in Libra, and so if you put Libra towards the chart, the top of the chart, it's going to do quite well. So Jupiter up there does quite well. It does have a quality of a lot of support from relationships, a lot of support from the partners, from the legal systems, learning in that regard, through the relationships, through who they've learned from, and really kind of having a very strong belief system that needs to be understood. And it's going to be coming from their partner, from who they're working with, and then it's important to keep those in alignment. So as I was saying with Jupiter in Libra, it's important to understand that your beliefs are something that are going to be kind of played with back and forth between you and another person, and to make sure your beliefs are in alignment with your partners as well. And that's the same for anyone's like Jupiter placement, but Jupiter in air signs really benefits from being able to figure those things out. Jupiter is really well with that, with trying to organize their thoughts based off of someone else's kind of opinion. Jupiter really wants to create a cohesive kind of worldview, and in an air sign, it does really well in how to kind of navigate the social implications of different worldviews and different beliefs. So there could be some political kind of things with Jupiter in these particular signs as well. So there's an aspect of that there that I think is really interesting. And then Jupiter in Aquarius has a quality about it that is a very, very socialite, very much someone that is working towards a lot of specific social kind of movements, and kind of helping people through a lot of different societal changes. Jupiter in Aquarius has another social kind of quality to it at the top of the chart. This is very much like group advocacy, people that are working towards a lot of specific lessons regarding helping the collective, helping society, progressing society. This is where you'll see, I think, most of the kind of awareness of the past and the past laws and the past systems to then help future generations in that regard with Jupiter in Aquarius. And then finally, Jupiter in water at the top of the chart. So Jupiter in water does quite well. It has a really good ability to integrate its intuition into things. It's able to bring about a lot of change through its connection to its emotions, right? Jupiter in Scorpio, Jupiter in Cancer, and Jupiter in Pisces all have this gift of being able to connect to the emotional world. So these are great people. Even Jupiter in air can do really well with HR. Working in HR can be a really great thing there. Jupiter in water can do that as well, but they get a little bit too involved. Jupiter in Cancer can do really well with HR, so long as they are separating that. But there's a sense of like bringing family as a career. That's kind of interesting with Jupiter at the top of the chart there in Cancer. But they're all really intuitive. When we put Jupiter in a water sign, it does really well overall in water. Even in Scorpio, it does well because it's able to really navigate the undercurrents. And that's where the beliefs are really coming from, is kind of that kind of subtle, kind of energetic, kind of hidden area that is within ourselves, within our family unit, and within kind of the programming that's around us. And I think that's something that Jupiter in water does really well understanding in all three of the water signs for various different reasons. And at the top of the chart, it allows you to have a career that is very psychic, intuitive, teachers, mentors, those sorts of things. Jupiter and Scorpio at the top of the chart, they have very specific struggles with leadership and unethical or misguided belief systems. That's the thing too, with Jupiter at the top of the chart, you're going to utilize belief systems to follow. You're going to want to follow some truth. You're going to want to follow something, right? When Jupiter's up there. And in Scorpio or in anything that's water, it's going to just kind of merge into whatever belief systems around it. And it's going to need to differentiate those things and kind of be able to connect to the spiritual realm or whatever they prescribe to, and then be able to preach that, teach that. And there can be this rose-colored glasses with Jupiter and Pisces as well as Jupiter in Cancer, because it's so strong that it kind of just has such a strong faith, has such a strong ability to follow faith, and it will continue to do that. So I think it's really powerful to see when we have Jupiter at the top of the chart. Obviously, of course, you're going to want to look to the entirety of your chart to have a better idea of what Jupiter is doing, meaning what Jupiter's rulership is at and things of that nature, to kind of get a better kind of worldview and kind of bigger picture of everything with Jupiter in the 10th house. So I think that's all I have to say right now at this point with Jupiter in the 10th house. I think there's so many different things that can be said. And I think overall it's important to follow your faith, follow your purpose, follow your meaning, because that is what's going to help you ultimately through this life. No matter what Jupiter you have up there, no matter what this is all about, right? Whatever the meaning is, we're all trying to figure it out. And astrology is a way of doing that in my mindset, as well as many others. But it is important to connect to yourself, connect to your own truth. And I hope this video was able to help you in some way. Connect to your own truth, connect to your own ability and guidance, and use your own intuition, use your own kind of discernment as you go through your own spiritual journey, your own purposeful, religious, and or, legal journey that is related to Jupiter, and just trust the process. Trust it'll all make sense in time, and it will inevitably be one of the biggest things that you are known for is your purpose, is your meaning, is what you preach and teach, and the worldview that you are able to give to others, especially with Jupiter at the top of the chart and Jupiter in Capricorn. So hope this helped you. If you guys have any questions, obviously make sure to check out the playlist down below for everything else that is relative to everything prior to Capricorn and the 10th house. And if you guys are interested in anything with me, all my socials are down there. Feel free to check me out, message me, email me, all the things, whatever works best for you. I appreciate you for watching this. Thank you so much, all of you Jupiter people out there that have so much faith to give, so much meaning to give, and I appreciate you once again. So thanks again for your time, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.